Kevin, thanks for joining us here today, mate. It's great to spend a couple of minutes with you and just obviously get an understanding of your story and share what you're seeing coming into 2022 and beyond and find out what's going on. So thanks for joining us here today.
Mate, thanks for having me.
So, brother, we're just chatting outside a couple of moments ago and as much as I want to talk about your recent success, obviously you've got a lot of exposure going out there at the moment and you're having your best year in real estate you've ever had. I think what a lot of people like to get out of these interviews is finding about, the origin of who is Kevin and where'd you come from and what brought you here today. So, who are you, my man?
Oh man, I'm a mix of many things, but my background is I did some military training out of school and then I moved to Australia in 2006 to study Bachelor's in Information Technology and then sort of fell into real estate from that point forward in Geelong, which is, obviously not quite close from me. It's about 100 kilometres from here. So completely opposite direction. And then a lot of these things have just been, those sliding doors, chance encounters type thing. And I ended up moving to Melbourne in 2015. Now I'm also director in the business. Got a young family, got a wife, an 8-month-old. So just a corporate athlete at work and a family man at home. So yeah.
So a director at Ray White Cheltenham, which is a cool little place. But tell people that maybe don't live in Victoria, what's the market you're operating in?
So it's sort of a mid to high range. So Ray White Cheltenham, we're in Bayside, right near the beach. We're not too far away from like St Kilda's and stuff, which most people would know. So we're about 20 minutes away. Out of St Kilda, and just a really nice suburb, family homes predominantly, surrounded by some beautiful areas as well. Hampton, where the block was this year, is not too far away from us, as well as a lot of people might know Hampton. We've got Beaumaris nearby. Average sale price sort of between $1 and $2 million, generally speaking, but also we venture out to other suburbs where sale prices are a bit higher than that as well.
So you mentioned something just before, which I love. You mentioned a chance encounter, and if you look at all of your marketing, it's everywhere. It's in your bio, it's in the front of your booklet here. Talk about that story, because I think this is the origin of what got you into real estate, and I think it's such an omen about what is real estate all about. And this is a great story to share.
Yeah, it is. So I think I'm a true believer. Life is a chance encounter. Sorry to get all philosophical on you, but sometimes, I speak to my wife and I'm like, why is it that I was born into my parents' home and not our neighbour's home? Like, that's a chance. You don't choose your parents. It's just a complete chance that you land in that family, and that's how I got who I am and my surname and my values and all of the above. And real estate's been pretty similar for me. So after I finished my bachelor's in IT degree, I wasn't sure if I wanted to do IT. So I was just doing part-time jobs, working at a few different places, doing pizza deliveries and restaurants and petrol stations and the whole works. And I used to work at this petrol station, and there used to be this customer every day, and I'd talk to her, and I was actually saving money to become a security guard. And I just asked her one day, I said, I see you're in a real estate outfit and you've got your name badge on, how do you find real estate? And she said, I work in property management, it's really good, but I think you'd be very good in sales. And she's like, have you ever thought about it? And I said, no, I've never thought or considered real estate. Like, my family's not here. We never have owned any real estate. The only dealings I've had with real estate is just through rental properties. And she's like, I think you'd be good. Let me run to my car and grab a business card. And she just had this real urge and want to help me out. And she gave me the card, and it took me about 2 weeks to actually pick up the phone and go, what's there to lose? Let me call this woman who ended up being my first boss. She offered me a job, and I started as an assistant at a Ray White in Lara, which is in Geelong, and worked there for a few years and sort of all started from there. I still kept working at the servo. So when I started in real estate, I used to do real estate during the day and then servo at night. And so I'd do the later shift at probably at 7 o'clock, finish up at midnight, lock up the store. And that's where the next chance encounter happened. And I didn't actually tell you this story before, but so I used to go to the petrol station at night and it'd be pretty quiet at the servo after about 8 o'clock. And I used to take my iPad and I started watching YouTube videos of other auctioneers. And I thought, I want to do this properly. I'm going to become an auctioneer. And I started watching YouTube videos and, all the REIV comps and all that sort of stuff, started making notes. And I'd literally at night time, there's no one there, so I'd practice auctions. About 12 months in, one day I went up to my boss and I said, I think I'm ready to become an auctioneer. And she's like, what do you mean? And I said, let me give you a sample. So I gave her a sample and she's like, geez, I think you are.
You can do it.
Yeah, you can practice a bit more. And I think we're almost confident to put you out on the street. And then from there was another chance encounter. So there was a Ray White email that went out about a novice auctioneers competition. And sometimes other people see more in you than you see in you. And there was a guy called Terry in our office, a senior agent, and as a sort of joke, I think he put my name forward for the thing, and I'm like, oh, you are joking me. I'm not competing in an auction competition. But anyway, they put my name down, and I ended up going forward, and I ended up competing in that comp, and I ended up winning the competition, and that's sort of where it all started. That was like
springboarded you up in the
yeah,
auctioneering
that was
space.
the sort of a big enigma moment, and then things sort of moved forward from there.
And you obviously take this philosophy around this chance encounter, almost searching for ways to connect with people, create relationships,
100%.
Making the most of these. And are you finding this is obviously something that is developed into the career that you've got today?
100%. I mean, everything from, from that to then I ended up getting a job at corporate, because through the novice auctioneers competition, I ended up building some great relationships with the guys at head office. Dominic at the time, who used to work at head office, and then when I left Lara, he was the one that sort of really pushed for me to come and have a catch up, and then I ended up getting a job at head office. So it was a complete chance encounter, because I was going to go and join another company in Geelong, and I ended up joining corporate. That chance encounter led to another chance encounter when I met my now business partner, Mark Guthrie, because I was doing a training session and he ended up being there one day. And then he said, I'm going to go to Cheltenham, and that's sort of the area I thought I want to be in. And so I ended up moving from Geelong to Melbourne, and that's where that started. After I moved to Cheltenham, guess who I meet? My now wife.
Yeah.
So I had a girl that I was sort of, we weren't quite, serious, but we just started dating, and then I left Geelong, and then, that kind of all came to an end, and then I meet my wife here. And then we start dating, and then we get a few years later, we got married, and now we have a son. So it's like, I could literally tell you one after another a sequence of that many chance encounters. And I think these chance encounters are not exclusive to me. They happen to everyone. I don't think most people are aware, or they notice these encounters enough. They sort of, like a lot of times we just go, well, I started here and I met my wife, and that's kind of that.
Yes.
But if most people look back on their sort of last 10 years, there would have been many chance encounters. That
a sequence of events that took place for a purpose,
and it would be like, how did I end up here? Or how did that happen? And I think day to day I sort of, I don't necessarily go out looking for them, but I have an open mind to be able to accept them when they take place. So if there's a new idea, I think I sort of take the philosophy there may be another chance encounter inside this that I'm not seeing yet. So, for example, something small we do is, and something we're very proud of, is every auction we go to, I take 3 bottles of champagne. So one for the buyer, one for the seller, and one for the underbidder.
How cool.
So as soon as the auction's over, the first person I walk up to is the underbidder, and one of my team will bring the bottle of champagne and be like, Tim, thanks for bidding today. I'm so sorry you missed out. Because the highest bidder gets the house, they get the claps, they get everything. The underbidder, who's been fighting the whole way, because of them, well, they push the price up. Without them, the price wouldn't have been that. No one looks at them. They just are left there and no one cares. And I sort of thought that it's just not quite right. There's going to be a way we can improve this customer experience. And of course they're going to be disappointed, but hopefully they're disappointed with the market, not us, because we've only just done our job. Yet, majority of times that customer walks away being disappointed in the agent, and hence why you see a spike in complaints when the market's hot, because it's like, sometimes they think agents are arrogant, which they are. The other times it's a perception they build up to go, the agent looks like a rock star, sold something for a record price, plus it sold sticker on everywhere. And no one's given this buyer just the 2 seconds of empathy to go, guys, I feel your pain, I'm really sorry. Here's just a little something. And it's literally just a small $100 investment. And that idea wasn't meant to be any chance encounter because it was just there to improve customer experience. But what's happened is these buyers then go and buy houses from other agents and they tell me to say, I bought a house from another agent. Thank you so much for everything. You've been fantastic through the whole journey. And a lot of times I end up selling them other homes that I might have off market. So that's been the added value. But then when I find out what they've bought, I obviously have all their details. So that's a new piece of information and data that I can communicate with long term. And then I find out their anniversary or their settlement day. And then I drop off another bottle of wine on the day to say, good luck with a big move. And here's a list of tradespeople if you need as you're moving in. Here's my handyman, here's my gardener, and here's my stylist who'll come and walk in and dress up the home for you. And for a small fee, they'll actually buy all the furniture for you and all this sort of stuff. And funnily enough, the agent they bought from just sent their assistant to drop off a champagne, and that's kind of the end of it.
100%.
And this sort of exploded so much to the point where I started picking up listings offers. So these people would buy a property from another agent, miss out at my auctions. When their friends or family sell, they go, you got to call this guy, he's good. I start picking up listings and then people call me and I go, what prompted you to call me? And said, oh, you may not remember this 2 years ago. You know, my brother or my sister was, bidding this auction or this happened and you missed out. They didn't actually end up buying from you, but they said, I really got to sell with you. And I was like, wow.
That's a powerful piece. Like, people remember the way you make them feel. And in a time where hell, I bought in the last couple of years and you have to miss out on a few properties usually before you find the one. And that moment there, that recognition is like, that stands you apart.
100%.
And thinking about, something that we were talking about earlier as well, you take a lot of pride in this idea that every relationship should be long lasting. This idea that you're not always searching for the now business. And I think, this story kind of just dovetails perfectly into that giving something away to someone that arguably didn't give you anything, traditionally speaking, is actually future business. And, you were mentioning before something like almost half of your business now is referral, right?
Correct.
So that being the case, this is, whether it was intentional or not, building a business of referrals.
100%, but that's just not just a business. I think in many other spaces this is possible. You look after people and people look after business.
Something I'd love to think about is as you develop and build, and you said it wasn't even intentional, it's something that everyone should be doing in real estate, is building this longevity view of it's not about today's business, it's about building the business for the future. Is this something that can be systemized? How does someone stay inside of your world, get taken care of inside your business? Is there a system for that, or is it just a thoughtfulness?
No, there's definitely a system. Yeah, it's a thoughtfulness is the biggest the flaw in thoughtfulness is thoughtfulness doesn't have a schedule. It's very mood driven. Whereas, a system has a schedule and it becomes a habit and it's more scalable. So for me, I think the biggest thing ever since I moved to Melbourne was, so the first 3 years before COVID came, every year I took 2.5 months off. So I went to Europe in the middle of the year and I went to India at the end of the year and I had a couple of small holidays. So I love that. I love being able to build a team around me that can do stuff. I love not constantly having to hunt business, not going in, and meeting people and going, well, that agent offered me less and you offered me more and all this other stuff, So I love that relationship-based approach. So there's definitely a system. There's many things we do. 3 times a year, all my database get a phone call and we send out a report. Every time there is a listing on a street that we list, they get a text. That whole street or some of the surrounding streets, I'll pick depending on the relevance. We'll get a text saying, hi Tim, just letting you know, we've just listed a house on your street, first opens this Saturday. And then before the auction, those people get a text, we invite them, and after the sale, I'll text them. We've started doing those same texts for competitors' listings.
Interesting.
So I call this the 9 cent listing because it costs about 9 cents from the system to send the text. There was a listing that came, a little 2-bedroom unit, came up for sale on this street, which is just off Beach Road. And I sent a text to all my data on that street saying, just letting you know a property's come up for sale on your street. Once it sells, I'll let you know the outcome. That's it, nothing more. someone replies back saying, "That's great, thank you for letting me know. What do you think my house is currently worth?" And I said, "I'm not sure, but I might have to come and see it." I said, "What I see in the old photos." He's like, "No, that's the old house. I've rebuilt it. It's 60 squares, 3 levels, 4-car garage, has a rooftop terrace, which has full, 180-degree sea views." And I'm like, "Okay, I really need to come and see it." I saw it. This house is estimated to go between 3.5 to 4 million because he wants to sell that and buy a $10 million property in South Melbourne. Now, I was trying to explain the depth of this to go off the back of a 9-cent message. This is a potential $4 million listing.
Amazing.
For doing nothing. So there's definitely a system around giving people a lot of that stuff. We have every buyer and seller that we sell for, they go into our anniversary list. So in my diary, the first calendar invite is anniversaries every single day. And we put the year next to it, next to the address, and both their details are there. And on their anniversary, my team sent them a bottle of wine in a bag. We're not big on putting Ray White stickers everywhere because I think sometimes you can very quickly turn a genuine gift into a piece of marketing and lose its effect. So I do personalised marketing with the client's name and stuff on it, but not so much, our branding everywhere.
Got it.
So yeah, bottle of wine in a nice bag and a report on their property and just a card that says, "Hey Tim, can you believe it's been 3 years? Happy anniversary. Here's a little something if you need anything, let me know. I've enclosed the latest report on your property." So stuff like that, and it's like I'm constantly top of mind. So if they open their phone, they're getting a text, and once a month they get a text with all the sales in their precinct. Plus when there's something on the street, they get a text. Plus 3 times a year they get a phone call. Plus when they open socials, I'm there. They open their TV, I'm inevitably on one of the news. They open the newspapers, I'm there. It's always when they're talking to their friends or a family at a barbecue, I'm there. I have clients someone posted something the other day saying, "This guy sold the house for me, looked after me, 2 years later I'm ready to buy. Didn't even buy from him. He's been constantly helping me every week. And then after I bought from this other agent, because they had the house I wanted to buy, he sends me a gift on the day, and then he sends his assistant around to check if we need help with tradies, removalists, all that sort of stuff." 2 days before the big move, I sent him an Uber Eats voucher to say, "Guys, just in preparation for the big move, here's a little Uber Eats voucher that'll come in handy on the day." And she made a post of that, and then a couple of people commented saying, "I hear this all the time about this guy." And then someone else said, "I heard this name and what he did from someone else, and he must be doing something because a lot of people are talking about him." And this was obviously just completely third party on someone's page, someone else commenting. And to me, I was like, wow, the amount of time and energy you spend on marketing yourself and telling everyone how good you are, or you can just be good to them.
Yes.
And they'll tell everyone how good you are. And it's the same triangle, but just sort of reversed a little bit to some degree.
So I'm as a director in the business, you're obviously not just responsible for your own team, but you're starting to develop other agents and no doubt teams within your team. So, the bigger the dream, the bigger the team.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're at a fun stage where you've got this big team, so you've got the capacity, and as a result, you become a legitimate volume agent, which is something we're really, wanting to grow more of. It's a great piece, but. What's your advice or what's your experience and story with growing a team? What's the right person? When's the right time? What's your advice to people looking to grow their own teams?
I think as soon as things start slipping, it's like if the minute you start missing gym sessions, hire a personal trainer. It's exactly a little bit like that. Because in a team, I think as you are on your own, and if you are efficient and you measure things, which you should, because what gets measured gets improved. So if you're measuring, you're calling people, you're getting into doors, you're doing stuff, and the database calls are getting dropped, I think that's generally the first thing that gets dropped. Because when you are a new agent, one-man operator, you obviously need food on the table, so you're just hunting the now business, which is fine, but then the future business gets neglected, and that is the future, and you got to really protect your future. And you sort of, when you come to that point, that's when you really want to make the move and just, I think a lot of times, you take the risk, and generally you'll find a way to figure it out. Like, rarely in my career have I seen an agent that's been a one-man operator and they employ an assistant and then they go, "Well, sorry, I'm going to go back to becoming a one-man operator." Like, I've never come across that story personally. It's generally like most people, getting to that from 1 to 2 is the hard part, and it takes them a long time to do it. But had they done it a little bit sooner, they would have just gotten to that next part sooner. Because I've actually never come across anyone that where they thought, "You know what, I really need help," and I'm going to go and put on an assistant, and then a year later you meet him and go, no, I'm just back to one-man operator. Like, you never hear that. So it's just believing that it'll be fine and
100%.
and just taking the that next step.
Because the interesting question I have is like when you've come back, right? If you were to start again from scratch, pretend you had no experience, you had nothing else, but you had this knowledge of what you got, the journey that you've done, you'd put an assistant on sooner, wouldn't you?
I'd just have a whole team from day one.
From day one.
Because it's like, I said to one of the young guys in the office, I said, he wants to, obviously he aspires to be me, and that's something I'm very proud of. But I said, you got to imagine this in your market where he operates. There's someone like me that you're competing with. So you got to first figure out how you're going to beat me.
Yeah.
So my team, we track the calls. So two of my girls, one of them made 69 calls and the one made 74 calls yesterday. My sales cadet made 30 calls and I made over 50 calls. My team alone made more calls than most offices in one day. Mm-hmm. Okay, we're carrying more listings. The level of service I'm providing is ridiculous. I go into someone's house and they have a dog. Straight away, we order them a personalised dog bowl.
Yeah.
And that goes to their house in this beautiful packaging with a ray white ribbon on it and a card with, that says he's a little something for Jack. All that sort of stuff when I go to, and then we make a note. So next time I go to meet them, I take a packet of Schmackos with them.
Yeah, good.
With me when I walk. So I'm like, how are you going to beat me? Because I've just got the time, the resources, the skills, ideas. My name's everywhere. It's going to be a hard one. So it's going to be very difficult to beat someone with
a team.
With a team. Because it's like I said, you are turning up to this fight with a pistol, and I've got a whole tank.
It's a good view.
And for me, if I moved markets today and left Cheltenham and went to Sandringham, for example, I'd just take my whole team because I'd have an army of 4 people literally just around the clock making calls. We're doing appraisals. Our sole goal would be to do more appraisals than all our competitors combined.
So that's your main KPI that you look for?
That's one of the biggest ones for sure.
100%. I love that. Well, let's take a bit of a sideward step here for a second and talking back to the journey of directorship. And you talked a little bit earlier about your business partner, Mark, and I guess the journey's sort of been, a 10-year journey. But, for agents that are a little bit more developed, naturally the next step is I want to become a director. I want to open my own business. So I want to do this kind of thing. And, especially after the last couple of years, there's been a couple of good years. So there's a lot of people that are sort of thinking it's going to be good. Yeah. But
when money flows, ambition grows.
You got it. So that being said, it wasn't just a day one, I'm in, I'm the director, I'm ready to go. It was a process. Do you mind talking a wee bit about what that journey looked like and in terms of people that want to look for potential business partners or potentially going out on their own, what would your advice be in terms of time frame and doing it the right way?
Yeah. I think there's no sort of set template in my mind, but I think communicating with yourself and others is important. So when I first moved here, I was clear that's what I wanted to do, and my business partner, my then boss, he was clear that that's my aspirations, and that's one of my ambitions is to be able to buy into the business. And ultimately, I think there's a couple of things. I mean, writing big numbers is one thing, but for me, people, even future people that buy into our business, that's only one aspect of it if they can generate good revenue. But if you are conscious that that's what you want to be in the future, you want to start learning to become a leader.
Exactly.
Very early on. Because, you have one bad director and a few directors in the business, and all of a sudden, this business gets to the point where everyone's climbing a different mountain. And some of these people haven't given it enough thought, only to realise one day that they've pushed all this time and worked so hard, only to find out that they've climbed the wrong bloody mountain. So I think just being extremely clear from within yourself to be, this is what I want to be. I want to be a leader. So I did some work. I did some, internal coaching, external coaching, something I was trying to do. And before you even get to the directorship stage, you are going to have to be a leader if you build a team around you. So it's something you consciously work on, something you want to communicate with, the other directors in the business. That is what I aspire to do. What do you need from me? What would you like me to do? And just rather than them keeping you accountable, you should keep them accountable to go, hey, am I doing this okay to your standard? Have we reached that milestone? And you want to show people you're eager, you are keen, and eventually get that step, because it's entering into a marriage with someone. So you know,
Not something to rush into.
not something you want to rush into. Exactly right.
So we're going into 2022. It's January. It's just getting started. You know, we've just come out of 2 years worth of lockdowns and virtual auctions, virtual inspections. How are you sort of seeing the trend starting to 2022, and what do you think the future is for us here?
2022 is going to be exciting, man.
Yeah.
It's I think it's going to be a year of hybrids.
Yep.
Because I feel like all of us, humanity's been retrained in the last 2 years, how our minds operate, what we consider important now, and how we do things. So I think things will start resuming to somewhat more normality this year. You know, we'll obviously start seeing a bit more travel and things returning to normal. Auctions, we're doing hybrids at the moment, and I think that'll remain. Because even when we got out of lockdown last year, I mean, particularly Melbourne, I don't know about other states, but we've obviously been in lockdown so long that it's like when we don't have a lockdown, it feels weird. It's like, because this doesn't feel right, you know, all the freedom just...
Seeing you in face to face.
It's really messing with me, man. But yeah, I think we'll keep doing online auctions in conjunction with on-site auctions. Virtual inspections will keep happening. I mean, we've never had more people request a FaceTime phone call to say, can we have a FaceTime?
Interesting.
With you to look at a property. Great example, the buyer that purchased the highest bidder on the block property that we're involved with. She'd never seen the home.
Yep.
And with the video marketing we did, which, you know, was quite different to what we traditionally do and what other agents on the block did, but it was a full 15-minute step-by-step walkthrough of what the inclusions are, what's what. And that's literally what's the main video. We had a couple of shorter cuts, but that's what we pushed out. And off the back of that, she registered, and we ended up, you know, for the amount of scrutiny we copped through the show, we actually had the second highest views and the highest registered bidders on the day.
So tell me this, let's close up on this note here. What's the advice you're giving to your team, your direct team, but also those that you're speaking to that's going to make the most out of this year? What's most vitally important to be successful this year?
Execution.
Yep.
Ideation without execution is nothing but delusion. I think most years, most people formulate a plan, some don't, but generally most people either write down a plan or think about a plan to go, this is what I'm going to do this year, and this is how I'm going to achieve everything. And I think execution is where most people in the industry just fall apart. And I think I'm all for it. Like, if I hear an idea, I'll just jump on it, like I'll do it, you know. So I think the big goal should be to write down some small goals, but execute them. And really just, by the end of the year, you want to know, hopefully you're looking back at the end of the year in 2022 going, man, those ideas were rubbish, you know, because I executed them, and now I know not to bother with them anymore. Or you go, that's just changed my life this year. Like, I've had the best year ever. I feel good. Business is good. And I think all these little things, you know, the soul sticker, the speaker, most people don't notice them, but it's not about other people noticing. It's about the fulfillment it brings. And success without fulfillment is the biggest failure, in my opinion. And it's, you know, these little things, they're like these little wins. You know, people play golf, play squash, go to the gym, you get a listing. It's just these little wins that control your neurons. You know, the levels of your endorphins and cortisol in your brain, and that's where some of the fulfillment comes from. It's not that, you know, just go and do meditation and you'll feel fulfilled. It's not really true, although I'm a big believer in those things too. But it's just making sure if you execute them, you'll feel fulfilled by the end of the year, one way or another.
Kevin, you're incredibly generous with your time. There's been some powerful information around building relationships and thoughtfulness, which is no doubt a big element to why you're being so successful. So, mate, I wish nothing but the best for 2022.
Mate, thank you.
For your
Thank
time,
you so much, mate. Thank you.
Till next time, huh?
That's it.
Thanks very much, guys.